Hey everyone, welcome to the 437th episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by patrons Luke Cheney and Michael Lippert. I'm Oren Kaplan.
And I'm Matt Oren. Today we've got a classic Matt and Oren catch-up episode.
Classics. We haven't done this one since last episode.
Well, but you know, it's like a little bit more open-ended. We're talking about housekeeping, certain things that we do to keep our portfolios tidy, clean, and shareable, and, book a little bit more work.
Yeah, we're talking about kind of a couple things that you do between jobs, to keep yourself employable. I was pitching fun employment as the title. Matt did not like it.
Yeah, there's no matter how often you work, there's nothing fun about being unemployed unless unless it's elected.
Yeah, it's called early retirement between jobs. The other thing I wanted to respond to real quick, got an Instagram message today from a listener of the podcast, friend of the pod. And this friend said, I'm listening to episode 425, the last movie ever made, and it's a poor representation of Arizona in our filmmaking. My circle of friends and their friends are go-getters building real filmmaking businesses. And this person has not finished listening to the episode yet, so he might change his mind about his thoughts. But I think maybe we were like kind of digging on Arizona or something, filmmaking in that episode, 425.
I think that maybe. I think we can kind of take this a little bit out of context, or just kind of
and this is not the first time that this has happened. We when I talked about shooting in Mexico City, I had someone reach out and say that I was not representing Mexico City accurately. So I guess my realization is that like people, and this is so obvious, I don't know why it's not a realization. I guess sometimes when we talk about filming in specific places, in our experience, if it's not 100% great, people from those places are maybe offended and maybe feel like we are discouraging other people from filming in those places, which obviously is not at all our intent. But maybe as much as you hate being called an influencer and hate being chased by paparazzi, maybe we are on a very, very tiny scale influencing some filmmakers.
I think the term is micro influencer, which is
I have a really bad
on
case.
Both sides of that.
My doctor said I'm suffering from micro influencing.
Yeah. If you or someone you know is suffering from micro influencing,
so
maybe podcasting can help.
I guess for starters, I want to apologize. I of course don't want to. Like every place is awesome, and the reason people go to those places or film in those places are because there's great locations, great crew, great reasons, great incentives to do so, and take all of our opinions obviously with a grain of salt. I mean, there's not a more subjective business than this. I mean, potentially there is. Maybe the fine art world is more subjective, but I do think that I'm sorry for offending people. And also, of course, we know that one person's experience in a market does not mean that entire market is what that person says.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's hard to speak to what in particular about the episode, which was kind of a while ago, they found irksome.
Mm-hmm. I think it was 4 months ago. Maybe
we cut some of this out, but I do genuinely love Arizona and the Arizona scene for sure. Having loved the Phoenix Film Festival many times, which is where I met Nate.
And I have zero experience with Arizona personally.
Were they taking issue with us speaking about? I guess I'm unclear as to what
I'm reading between the lines a little bit, but I think it seemed like maybe we were saying it's kind of like there's a casual filmmaking community there, as opposed to like a super business oriented, perhaps professional filmmaking community.
If we said that, certainly that's on us and a mistake. I think the more you work, especially when you start traveling more and you're working with local crews, you learn about all of the different ways that people are professional filmmakers across the country and across the world. And that's a really incredible thing, because you all speak the same language. You speak production, right? And we've all we've worked internationally before, and like a UPM's a UPM, and you know, listen, the production company in Moscow, it used to be a different thing, and now it's like a cool, funky, remodeled thing. And there's crazy props everywhere, you know, from previous jobs, and a couple dogs running around, and the EP's a little crazy, and the AD's a little stern, and you know, whatever. Like, we are all circus people together, and that's really special. And so certainly, I don't think either of us meant to put anybody down. I wonder if maybe on the other side of that conversation, the filmmaker definitely was in a point in his career where he was really less focused on, you know, working as a commercial director or as a TV director or any of that stuff, and really is mostly interested in making his own films. And so that's a different headspace than the person who wants to start their own agency, or is running their own agency, for instance.
Yeah, or just production company.
Or production company. Just as two different kind of, you know, versions of an ambitious creative. You can be utterly ambitious and utterly driven making an indie film, or literally building a business. The tricky thing with building a business is that it's pretty darn hard to do that in features these days.
Yeah, totally. And I also can't stress enough that, especially now in this post-COVID world, like where you live seems to really barely matter at all.
Yeah.
I'm pitching right now on a job, and I'm pitching against one director and a directing duo. And the one director, I believe, lives like on the East Coast somewhere, like not New York, and like in Texas or something. And then the directing duo, one of them lives in London and one of them lives in Mexico City. I think that it's like, it even matters less like on a professional, like at least in the Hollywood kind of way of like kind of studios and big production companies and all that stuff, and union shoots and all those things, like the decision makers, like the above the line people, the cast, the directors, you know, the writers, like they are all over the country. And so, you know, we personally know how to make stuff in LA, and I still kind of try to push to shoot in LA as much as I can. But it's like, yeah, you can shoot anywhere and you can be anywhere, and it's a whole new crazy world. And I'm still shocked by how every single like creative, like professional call I have on Zoom is like 95% of the time people are in their home. Like, yeah. You know, and I'm talking about like you're meeting with Pepsi and you're meeting with like IBM or whoever, Google, and everyone is at home. It's like, it does not matter at all where you are.
Yeah. Between my meetings today was one of those days where I was kind of like actively in development on two different things and wrapping up another thing, and multiple continents were involved. You know, me and the DP of one of the projects are the only people who live in LA. Like, you know, it's literally thousands and thousands of miles represented on one day's worth of Zoom. And it was, I did, you know, I got a little nostalgic over it. It's like,
you should get miles for depending on how far the people you're talking to on Zoom are.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Different time zones, all that fun stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, certainly we're in a post-COVID world. One of the things that certainly has changed is like the ability to collaborate with people across the country. And that means that you can live a lot of other places, which is pretty cool. Too bad all of our friends and homes and lives are in Los Angeles, because it would be nice to live somewhere cheaper.
Well, can I tell you an interesting story, totally unrelated to anything?
Sure.
Last night, my wife's in a movie. It's called On the Run. It's on Tubi right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was filmed in New Mexico, which, you know, is not any better than the original Mexico. I mean, they're both great. We went to the premiere, and one of the actors, actually the main bad guy, who was really great. And Carol's like, "Isn't that actor so good?" And I was like, "Yeah." And it's so funny because he's like so scary in the movie, and then
and he's like really nice. Yeah.
You meet him afterwards, and he's kind of like a little smaller than you expected, and he's wearing like a nice suit, you know, and like it's kind of like having a, you know, like a cocktail, and you're like, this guy's such an actor.
You're just talking about Danny Trejo, is what you're saying.
It's like he plays like the leader of a motorcycle gang.
Sure.
He like drives a Harley and he like, you know,
like this guy's smart. I could steal you.
He slaps children. Like, I mean, he's like a real bad guy.
Yeah.
And
fun.
then, in real life, but he lived in LA for 11 years, with his wife, partner. I don't know. Whoever he was with, someone who he lives with. And he said that, he was working here forever as an actor, just, you know, taking acting classes, trying to book things, getting like just tiny little opportunities here and there. And then he had like someone in his family got sick, you know, his like grandma or something. And he moved, and he's from Georgia, Savannah. So he went to Savannah to be with them for a few months. And then he like found a local agent, was like, hey, I'm available to do some acting. And he like booked a role while he was there. Like a decent like guest star role, and then he booked another one and another one, and he just was booking nonstop.
Leave,
in Georgia, and then he's like, and he even booked stuff in LA from Georgia, but now it's like when he comes to LA, it's like bigger roles all of a sudden, and he says all his roommates, all his friends, all the people he started with in LA are still just like, oh, I wish I just got one tiny like 3 lines on a TV show,
and he's like, cha-ching, cha-ching,
yeah. So I thought it was like a really interesting thing. You know, my wife was an actor also. We're like, should we move to Georgia? Like, I mean, we've heard similar versions of that story, but it was like, he was like a real case study because he had the exact same people that, you know, he claimed are all really good actors at the exact same level of him, started at the exact same time. They stayed in LA. He went to Georgia and his career took off just by being kind of like a medium fish in a medium pond as opposed to a small fish in a big pond, you know?
Yeah.
Anyhow, he's also a good actor. But
yeah, definitely.
I found that interesting. I mean, we've had that conversation before. Like, should we move to Toronto? Should we get our Canadian citizenship and direct TV shows?
Sure.
But, you know, I heard like even in London now, like people, like all these productions are going to Eastern Europe because they're just so much cheaper to do there.
So much cheaper. Yeah.
I just feel like anywhere you go that becomes like a big film hub just starts, you know, you get all these people and it just gets more expensive and you get like the best actors and the best crew and the best everything and becomes expensive. And then people are like, boop, now we're going to shoot somewhere cheaper.
And you're like, wait, now I live in Lithuania.
Yeah. Even I've seen it happen like in Austin. A lot of people started shooting. I mean, and you know, obviously like Linklater and Robert Rodriguez, and there's all these people from there. There was always like a good film community there, but it got to be like a bit of a production hub. And then like all of a sudden Dallas was like a little cheaper.
Tax credits also shifted. Yeah, that really hurt Texas.
So anyhow, the geography thing is interesting. I mean, you and I are just kind of stuck in the most expensive city in the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? Like the upside and the downside of going to school in Los Angeles and coming up here is it's like, yeah, technically I could move somewhere cheaper and be like sad and lonely. You know?
Yeah, I will say you know, one of the things I wanted to talk about today was kind of being a little bit in between jobs and in between pitches and stuff. So I have kind of like a slower week than usual. And so now I am like, you know, like having lunch with director friends or like, you know, talking like all these people that have reached out to me like over the past few months that are like, hey, let's go grab coffee. And I'm like, no freaking way. I'm too busy. Now I'm like, you know what? I'm not too busy. Let's grab coffee. And it is hard to do that in other cities.
Yeah.
The one guy was like, hey, I have an office in Venice. I'd love for you to come by. And I was like, there's no way in hell I'm driving across LA to Venice.
Yeah. I daydream about like Santa Barbara, like, you know, Oxnard, which is Santa Barbara County. Beautiful, a little more agricultural, not a ton to do. Sounds awesome. And then you just drive down to work all the time. But the casual stuff is the stuff that immediately goes away. My wife is in Sandbox again. They started back up. Cool. And it's
Which
just
is like an acting.
Yes, thank you. Yes. It's like a workshop environment where directors and actors work together on material.
It's like, I don't really like it when directors and actors mix, but you know,
sure. It's okay. Sandbox.la, shout out. It's great. Anyway, you don't like, no one's going to be like, hey, last minute, will you come be in my scene? If it's a 2-hour drive each way, even though that's not that bad. That's not that different from my old Comedy Central commute, honestly. but like,
yeah,
it's that casual stuff that just kind of
there's
disappears.
that, and there is. I mean, I'm still like, it's 2024. We're like, a little ways out of like the COVID lockdowns, and I think even though LA has like a big COVID spell going on right now, I like, nobody's like really wearing masks that much, and most people, obviously people still are, but a lot of people are kind of out and about, and I am getting a little bit more of the taste of the accidental run in. So I was just at Starbucks, Starbucks Reserve, my favorite Starbucks in Los Feliz. And I ran into Tony Franklin, our past guest, and I saw this guy, Mark Rosen is his name, but he created this character named Kirby Jenner. Do you know him?
Sure, yeah.
He's like the lost Jenner brother.
We talked about Kirby Jenner. They had a Quibi show.
Yeah, that then got moved to Roku.
Oh, good. Awesome.
So I saw him, and we have friends in common, so I talked to him, and then, it's just like, I go to the sandwich shop, I run into people I know, and now we also have like, my kids' school community is a lot of the parents work in the film because, we're all like in LA. So I don't know. I'm feeling that it's coming back in super slow motion.
Yeah.
But I am 100%
it's feeling back. Yeah. Not fully back, but like the promise of like, oh, like I was texting with a friend. I was like, I think I have my life back. I literally said,
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, but like, I think so. A little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it is fun. Yeah.
And,
my kids are getting sick again. It's great. My son took a COVID test this morning. It was negative. But, anyhow, so I guess the big conclusion is, don't go to Arizona. Don't go to Mexico City. Just come to LA.
Those places suck. Don't bother. No, that's not what we're saying at all. Not what we're saying at all. Truly wonderful places. And God bless you if you can find a way to make a creative career work in your hometown or your chosen hometown. And build community. That's awesome. And like, Oren, you were saying like, oh yeah, there's always been a creative community in Austin. Richard Linklater and Robert Rodriguez would beg to differ. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I mean, there were
creative people certainly, and like, but like
Rodriguez had like he built his own stage
studio
there and stuff.
Sure, yeah, totally. But you have to build a stage.
UT Austin and
UT Austin I think is probably the beginning. And look, I don't really know, but I do know that like Linklater started a film society that's still running and is an incredible repertory theater, and that there are lots of other repertory theaters all over the country. But like you have to build it for them to come, I guess is what I'm saying. So
yeah. If you build it for them,
maybe they'll come. And we did.
Yeah.
Somebody else built Hollywood for us, and we were like, okay, yeah, I'll check it out. Well, Oren.
Yeah.
Talk about a catch up, but we're still catching up, bud.
Yeah. Let's keep it going. Like, I guess one thing that I've been doing, I had, life is good. It's been a good year. I had like a pitch this week, and I did book a job that doesn't shoot till like the end of October, which I just feel like it's not like booking a job.
I got hit up for something for like late October, and I was like,
talk to me like mid-October.
No, I mean, sure, let's do it, but like, come on.
Yeah. Also, you don't want to be working on it for the next 3 months because you get paid the same whether you work on it for 2 weeks or 3 months. I was like,
oh, great, my time is just less valuable now.
Yeah. But otherwise, I'm kind of, just hanging out, and I've shot, a bunch of stuff this year and a few things at the end of last year that I hadn't quite gotten copies of. And so this week I'm kind of like been tracking down, emailing. Who do you email? You work on a commercial, let's say, and you're done. Who do you get the footage from?
Great question. I'm going to say like the Post Soup.
Like, do you know the Post Soup on the stuff you shot?
Yeah. I mean, yes, most of the time. Like lately in particular, I've been really hands-on. Yeah.
I think my kind of go-to...
yeah. So
you talking to the production company, like talk to, if it's the
producer
production company I'm at, I talk to the EP, but then they have to, 9 out of 10 times the post is not done at the production company I'm with.
Right.
So then if it is, then that's easy. But if it isn't, they have to like go to the agency. The agency has to figure out who did post, and then it's like, here's the ProRes files that we don't have. They all have weird text on them.
If I'm not hands-on, it's one of two ways for me. It's either like I'm in it and like, can we get a power window on this? Or this is a little weird. There's too much magenta in the skin, whatever. Or like, hey, that's a wrap. That was so fun, guys. I can't wait to give notes on that first cut. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, oh, sorry, this is already airing. Here are the cuts.
Right. Well, at least here are the cuts. I mean, the other weird thing is sometimes you'll work with an editor, on a cut, but then the editor doesn't know. They're not doing the color grade or the sound mix. Yeah. So they don't have the finals either. So what I've been trying to do recently is kind of like cut out the production company completely, because I'm just trying to minimize the number of people between me and the person I'm asking that has access to the final cuts. So I'll email, if I know the editor, I'll just email the editor.
Oren, I wish I could, if I had a time machine, one of the things I would do is I would go back in time to episode 3 of this podcast and I'd be like, hey, you guys are going to do this for like 10 years. Start a post house right now.
You think we should have our own post house?
Yes. The margins are not bad. You can hire freelancers for all of it.
Can you?
Yes, for sure. You just have a handful of like go-to freelancers all the time, maybe a couple permalancers, quote unquote. And then we don't have this problem and our director's cuts are sick.
Yeah, I don't think running a post company is like very easy.
That is true.
You want to get good editor. I've had friends that have post companies that just are not getting a ton of work, and they're just like trying to keep their editors busy, like cut this reel, and then the editors get unhappy.
Like I said, if it's all freelance, what I'm saying is like we're both very controlling and gripe about post most jobs.
Yeah, and we have friends like Ira Rosenzweig and stuff who do all their own posts and stuff. But you're doing post on one of your jobs now, I know. And you're like, God,
I do not like it. But if I was post souping the job and not cutting it, I would be okay with it for sure.
Yeah,
which is what I should have done.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, it's all like a money thing at the end of the day. But
anyway, you were saying.
But so now I've been trying to get the agency producer. If I don't know the editor, or if the editor doesn't have the final thing, I'll try to get to the agency producer. But a lot of times those people are freelance too. So it's like, they have to connect me. So right now I'm waiting on like a few different jobs and I'm trying to get the ProRes files so that I can, tweak them, like regrade some things that I don't love without having to talk to anyone. But then the question I was asking before we started recording is, if you shot some stuff and it's not that great, do you still upload it to Vimeo and make it downloadable? I guess first of all, like, what's your process? Like in terms of you have your final product now what?
I put it into a Dropbox folder, like
all your work
of everything.
Well, how many years back does it go?
I think basically everything.
So everything you've ever directed is on Dropbox right now?
I know that's not strictly true. There's like very old
the last
stuff.
5 years, let's say.
Certainly the last 5 years. Yeah.
And sorted by what? Chronological?
No. Project, company name, if it's like College Humor, Funny or Die, that sort of stuff. Like if there's like a bunch of stuff underneath it. But for the most part, it's like product and then campaign underneath. So like for Ohio Lottery.
Brand?
Brand spot.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I'm 100% chronological. Like I have by year, and then in each year I have the brand.
So let me ask, who has a link to this?
Dropbox folder? I don't have it on Dropbox. I have my like 4 terabyte drive that I carry around. My OK Essentials, Oren Kaplan, it's my initials. Essentials SSD drive. And the reason I have everything on there is
that backed up anywhere?
Not really. I should back it up.
Is that the only place your files live?
Well, then I put everything on Vimeo, but it's not the full quality. But you put like 100 gig ProRes file on Dropbox.
I never get the 100 gig ProRes file. That's the problem.
That's why I have it on a drive, because I have everything. I have all my director's cuts and I get like the project files.
Yeah. Oh, you get the project files too?
No, my own project files of my director's cuts that I've made.
All of that's in your project file.
All of that is on in these little folders for each project. So I'll have like a folder called like client cuts, and then I'll have like a folder called director cut. And then usually the client cut has like everything, the 9x16 and the 1x1 and the with prices, without prices. I try to get all that stuff.
So I have separate folders for as much of that stuff as I get. I know for sure you recut things more than I do, and you get more of that stuff, it sounds like.
If I can get the stems also, obviously that's
stems would be great.
The audio,
but also like separated. You got to be like in tight with a handful of people in order for that to happen. But the reason I was asking who gets this is because chronological is helpful for you, and like brand is sort of helpful for me. But really, I'm sending this when I'm talking to a producer, and they're like, "Hey, do you have any of this?" Or like, "We're putting together a reel." I'll just be like, "Bloop, here you go." Right. Art class, you don't have that issue because they know your reel very well, right?
Right. But I do talk to people like, are always asking me
elsewhere or whatever. Yeah.
So I send them to my website first, and I'm like, here's my favorite things that I feel like define me, and then if you send me the creative, I'll send you Vimeo links for other things that are in this world. I would never make like someone go through like, here's 300 things.
Here's the thing, they don't, right? And so like, you can be like, hey, here you go. Here's stuff that's downloadable. It's not super helpful. That's what, and I think I know we've talked about this on the show before. Having a handful of like go-to Vimeo showcases is way more helpful. Just to be like, oh, you need celebrities? Here you go. Oh, you need animals? Here you go.
And you update that all the time?
Yeah. I mean, that's easy, right?
I guess. I have like 10 of those showcases. So now I just uploaded like 20 new clips today.
But I'm not every clip goes under every showcase, right?
No, but I'm wondering if now I should go to every showcase. It's like animals, celebrities, VFX.
You should.
If I should go update everything.
Yeah, you should. I mean, you could also do it when someone asks for... No, you should do it now because you'll forget otherwise.
Okay, so then I guess like my next question is, so, we both put our stuff on Vimeo, right? Do you put it unlisted or public? Like we make it downloadable, right? Because we want to be able to send these Vimeo links to people that might potentially pitch us, and we want them to just click on the link and then download the file. So
my opinion has evolved not out of anything beyond fear and frustration. So one of my first SAG jobs, the SAG job that both of our wives were in, had a very specific buyout. It was like 6 months or whatever it was. And if you had the video posted for longer than that, everybody would have
actors are supposed to
get paid. Yeah. And the production company got in trouble because somebody forgot to take down the video after 6 months. And so
like one of the actors' agents was
they got their wrist slapped or whatever. It cost them thousands of dollars.
So
then that EP was like, hey, do not post this video on your Vimeo. Like, or we will get in trouble for that reason. And I was like, okay. And they made everything unlisted. Right.
Yeah.
Which is like not what she asked me to do, but also like, I was like, this is a big, good spot. I want to make sure that I can show people this.
No, the Vimeo is, unfortunately, it's two totally separate things, right? First and foremost, it's a tool that we use to store our work as a portfolio device, right?
Right.
And secondly, it's like kind of a social media video site.
Yeah, but that's unfortunately a distant second. Do you know what I mean? Do you know how many views any of your pieces have gotten ever?
Yeah, I think there's like some indication, but I
mean, do you personally know? Like in the way that you used to know, like, oh man, I did this YouTube video that got like 1 million views. Like,
I mean, Vimeo doesn't have like my stuff doesn't have like numbers like that. So I guess I don't really know, but I think
I guess most of mine are like sub 100 and I'm totally fine with it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
But I've been making my things public recently if they are kind of out in the world already. And, it makes them downloadable also. So it's a little weird to kind of do it. But I do feel like there's a little bit of discovery,
I 100% think so.
And especially if somebody finds you, they go to mrmattenlow.com. They see your video of Retta. They hit play on Vimeo. What happens at the end?
Yep, exactly.
It shows another one of your
Matt
public videos.
So
not an unlisted one.
Our pal Tom Morris talked about like, oh, I just want to get people into the storefront. He talks about rather than having a producer make a wire drive reel or something like that, he would rather have a go-to showcase either on his website or in Vimeo. And I agree completely. And so that's why I've started for this exactly what you're saying. I just put everything public now. I got scared once upon a time, and then...
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if the commercial or whatever you're working on hasn't come out yet, you don't make it public.
Sure. Yeah. But once
if it is out in the world,
all right, it's fine. And again, we're talking about 50 views, 100 views, like not a meaningful amount of exposure, but it's the most specific version of Hollywood viral you could hope for. Do you know what I mean? Like every single person who's viewed some of my videos, their opinion matters very much to me because they're trying
to potentially hire you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say one kind of counter story to this is, I did some Captain Crunch spots this year. And while I was, I do pretty deep research when I'm pitching and working on my treatments. I want to see what other stuff the brand has done in the past and other commercials. And I found, a few other recent Captain Crunch spots. And I found this one kind of a behind the scenes horror movie about an actor that was on this Captain Crunch commercial, but it was shot on the same set as the main Captain Crunch commercial. And it's like the actress is like the lights turn off in the soundstage and she walks around and it's like kind of turns into a horror film. It's kind of well made and cute and fun and funny and unexpected, because it goes totally against the brand. And when I was pitching on it, I was like, by the way, I saw this like kind of horror behind the scenes video you guys made. That was pretty awesome. And they're like, oh, where did you see that? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I just found it online. They're like, oh, that should not be out there in the world. I was like, oh, sorry. I don't know. I don't
Some
know
poor actors like trying to like put it on the reel or something.
No, I think it was the director. It was like, hey, we have some extra time. Let's shoot this fun, crazy thing.
Oh, I see.
And then the director made it public on Vimeo.
And they were mad about it.
In the same attitude that we have, like, who's going to see this?
Yeah.
And then I saw it and talked about it and maybe even pulled a still from it. And then the agency was like, this should not be out there.
Get that away from me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. All of which is to say that's how we like to do it. Do you remember the great Vimeo purge of 2011 or something like that?
Where everyone left Vimeo?
No. Vimeo had swept copyright infringing material from their website and including a ton of director portfolio pieces.
Oh, geez. No, I don't. But I have had, and this might be related. I recently, in the past year, had a clip flagged for using copywritten music.
Oh, interesting.
Even though we had licensed the music, not me, the agency or whoever, the brand had licensed the music, but I put the same spot on my Vimeo and I made it public. And they're like, hey, you don't own that music. You better take it down. And I tried to make it unlisted and they still ended up basically making it unwatchable on my account. Yeah. So that's the other kind of warning. It's like, if you're using copywritten, especially music, something that Vimeo can easily find algorithmically, it's another reason to maybe not make things public, but I don't know. I'm just doing it, obviously mostly with the stuff that I think is good. Also. Yeah. Which is my second question. Do you if you do have this Dropbox folder that has everything you've ever directed and I have this hard drive that has everything I ever directed, do I go also put it up on Vimeo? Whether it's public or unlisted, doesn't really matter. But is it worth just putting stuff on Vimeo? And then is it worth sharing that stuff with your reps? Because I have I'd say 50% of what I shot this year, I don't think is gonna help me get a job, to be honest. It's just either the color is weird or the editing's weird or the writing's weird, or it's just not the production value is not there, or it's just not something that I'm known for.
I think that...
What do you do with that stuff?
You and I are different in that you were like, the color's weird. To me, if the edit is weird, or the performance is weird, or the writing, if the writing is weird, that's where I'm like, ugh. I don't know. Even though we didn't write it, if the writing's not good, then that's mostly why I think something is bad or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
also you're being paid for your taste. So if you're showing people stuff that is not
like, it is my fault if it's not good, and and you look bad for showing something that is bad, right?
It's like when if I see a DP reel and like it's like 10 great shots and one awful shot, I'm like, this DP has bad taste.
Yeah.
Like, why would they put this awful shot on this reel, you know?
Yeah. Whereas actors, it's the opposite. Like, I kind of barely like to watch actor reels, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not their fault if they're in a bad movie or something, or in a short film, or just don't have much tape.
Well, if it's bad acting though, and they think it's good acting, then it's good to know.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's also typically DPs can shoot more than actors can. You know, like there's just like the likelihood that an actor is going to get a job starting out is so slim that like any tape you got, you want to put on a reel. I get it. So I can't fault them for it. Anyway, that's a tangent. Yeah, I think that like there's a little bit of like, is this good? You need to have your brain trust and be like, hey, is this good, or should I be embarrassed by this? Is one thing, right?
Yeah. And there is that thing where you're like, oh, well, I've worked with a sloth once, but it's kind of like an older video and the pacing doesn't match up to 2024. Should I show people this because I have a sloth on my reel and this job has a sloth in it? But then you're like, well, are they going to think that what I shoot for them with the sloth is going to be kind of like as slow paced as the thing that I did? And I guess
you want your thank you slide at the end of your treatment to be like, thank you. And it's a picture of you
and the sloth
taking this with the sloth. That's
now that I think about it, probably everything with the sloth is like kind of slow paced, but
they're faster than you'd think.
That's what everyone that works with the sloth says.
They really are.
That's if I was writing a treatment for a sloth thing, I'd probably open with that.
Yeah.
Did you know
they're
sloths are pretty fast?
They're faster. They'll get you.
So yeah, my
so
plan,
I guess what I'm saying is like there's a the things that you are describing are nitpicky in a good way. Take that as a compliment. But like all the things you're not going to put on your reel, it's not like they passed that first sniff test for me. I'm going to assume, right? And if they pass the first sniff test and they're specific, there's something really specific, you worked with this piece of talent, or you shot this certain thing or whatever, then I think there's an argument to be made that they should go on your reel. If they don't pass that first quality control, if they're too old or whatever, not nitpicky, but kind of more global issues, that is this bad, thumbs up, thumbs down, then do not upload them.
Yeah. Well, my plan was for just, this, and again, I'm not talking about super old stuff because I'm just talking about like stuff from this year. But my plan was to send everything to the reps and be like, hey, here is the stuff I've shot this year in the order of me liking it. This is what I think is my best thing, next best thing, next best thing. This thing is like, okay, this is mediocre. And
well, sure. But you look at what reels they put together, they'll put stuff on there and then you'll shortlist that you wouldn't have thought to do.
Right. And that's the idea behind sending everything as opposed to pre-curating it, because and hoping it's a safe space, but also I don't want my reps to be like, wow, Oren shot some really bad things.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
The flip side, every once in a while I'll be like, this is the best spot I've ever done. I want everything to be this. And they're like, yeah, that's cool. Congrats, man. It looks good. And you're like, what do you mean?
Yeah. I told you
about one of those.
My Super Bowl one where one of my reps was like, I was like, here it is. Should I send you do you have the high quality version of it or the 1080p or whatever? He's like, I don't need that one. I was like,
you're like, what? Because you have it already, or you're just because you got that excited, or
he sells me in a different way, and he probably has directors that have way better versions of that.
Sure. Yeah.
So why is he going to push me for that? But I don't know. The other thing that happened this week is somebody asked me, they're like pitching on, or they wanted to see if I was interested in like this reality show parody trailer, which it's like, you and I have done that, did 1,000 of those like 15 years ago. but I don't have anything. He's like, send me anything. I was like, all I have is like really old stuff. He's like, send it to me. It doesn't matter how old it is. And I was like looking at my 15-year-old stuff and I'm like,
I don't want to anymore.
I don't want to get a job with this work,
Yeah.
And I probably won't get a job, and these people will think that this work represents me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyhow, it's, this is what I do between jobs. I try to figure out how to present myself. It's much easier when you're working and you're not really thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And you're just like posting stuff on Instagram. Here's the latest
thing. You don't have
time
to think about it. Yeah.
Next.
For sure. Yeah.
Anyway,
you off mic, and then we can move on. But off mic, you were talking about like all of the different cuts and like, oh, should you do director's cuts on this and that or whatever? And I said, hey, let's save this for the show. And so, yeah, you were debating, is it worth your time on, some of these edits to like tweak them?
Yeah. If you have something that is like a solid B, is it worth making a director's cut and getting the footage and getting the splits and all that stuff to get it to a B plus? Or should you just ship the B and spend your time like trying to turn an A minus into an A?
And I have a very good answer for you. Are you ready?
I'll take it. I'm ready.
Because you were showing me one of these pieces that like all of it's kind of meh at best, except for one shot. There's one shot that's legitimately cool. You would be much better off making an Instagram video about that one shot than recutting the whole thing. You make a good Instagram video about how you approached this one cool shot and made it really cool and it was on a budget. I take it back. Don't say that. How you made this one cool shot. Mm-hmm. That is way more helpful for your career than...
And it's probably about the same amount of effort doing a director's cut or doing like an Instagram post about one shot. Yeah. No, that's a good one. I do think I showed you kind of two other things that are probably not going to make my website, but they will make my Vimeo. And those are ones where I'm not doing a director's cut. I'm just regrading the footage. I'm going to spend 1 hour on each one to take it from like C level color to B level color.
Yeah.
And that's it. I might not even go to Resolve. I might just do it in Premiere.
And I will say, I give you a hard time for being nitpicky. I looked at that spot. You were right to recolor it.
Oh, yeah. No, it's like objectively horrible. Yeah. It might not be horrible for its specific audience, which is like,
I don't know. I think that there were
elderly people.
They made some decisions that were global that should have been color specific. We'll leave it at that. Yeah. So that's great. Shifting gears.
Yes.
I'm kind of in two different modes than you are. It's kind of nice the way that this lines up for the show, at least. So my feature casting is like really moving along. Like there's a lot of not new attachments yet, but like interested parties who are excited to read, and like agents and managers are aware of the project, and I can feel this morning. I felt tangible momentum in a way that was really exciting.
Oh, nice! Congrats.
And we're going out to somebody new who I'm excited about for a certain role. And my producers were like, "Hey, like can you put together an offer letter, right?" And I always write like a little love letter that's like, "Hey, you're great and this and that, whatever." And typically what I'll do is I'll write some very specific stuff at the beginning, and then, at a certain point you get to like stuff that you can copy and paste and recycle a little bit. Like
GPT.
Like, hey, I'm going to explain the circumstances of the movie.
Explain to Megan Fox why she's good for dark comedy.
Exactly. And so that stuff's all fine, but I had a little bit of an epiphany today and thinking about it. I was like, they don't read this. They're not going to read a full page of like, hey, don't worry, this is how, I'm really focused on emotional truth of this character and blah, 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 whatever. Even though that's all genuine stuff that I love and mean and came from the heart when I first wrote it. And I'm going to move into just like what I would write in an email. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You would never write a 6-paragraph email and expect any normal person to read it.
Right. So you'll be like, yo, what's up, Sir Ben?
Yeah.
Loved you in Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, exactly.
What's he in?
Did you put Ben Kingsley in Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
I think
Gandhi.
You were thinking of Gandhi. Yeah. What a sexy beast that guy is. Another movie he's in, Oren. Anyway, but
I don't think he's a sexy beast.
You're being funny, but I'm not going to be like, yo, Sir Ben, what's up? But I am going to be a little bit more like, hey, I loved you in Sexy Beast. You're incredible in Gandhi. You got to be this person. 6 more sentences tops. Mm-hmm. I'd love to have a coffee, Matt.
Here's a picture of your face from 20 years ago, photoshopped into my movie poster.
Yeah. None of that stuff for sure. But just like write an email that you could expect a regular person to read.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's like sincerity and authenticity and simplicity like work in this space, and it's surprisingly hard to do all those things in 6 sentences.
And it's sort of like, part of it's you start writing and then you need to, I should talk about this part or that part or this aspect of the filmmaking process or my approach or any of that stuff. The whole thing I want is to have a coffee with them.
Yeah. We should make a Mad Libs book for offer letters.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, when my mom had cancer, we both watched your incredible movie. Name of movie.
Yep.
And then you just send the same thing to every actor.
Right. So I wasn't ever doing anything close to that, but it did feel like, because I could when I realized, I could copy and paste some of this stuff, no one's going to read any of the stuff I was going to copy and paste. So I'm going to write every single offer letter. It's going to be 100% new.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. And also not a full page in Google Sheets or Word or whatever.
Right. Yeah. No, this is why I can't work with treatment writers, because I realized anything remotely generic that is written is boring.
It's boring. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't want to read it.
Yeah. And you just have to cut to the substance by the third word.
I wouldn't mind a treatment punch-up writer. I wouldn't mind someone to just be to plus a joke, I see what you set up here, pay this off, or you could tighten this piece of language here. I do the first draft, they do the second draft, I do the finished pass. I would like that. That'd be great.
I mean, I guess on the opposite of that, when you're writing these offer letters to actors, is your personality coming out? Are you writing funny things and kind of being email casual, the way you would talk to me? Is there value in that?
I think there is value in that. And I feel like I just realized I was the intern who showed up for their interview in a 3-piece suit.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
And no one wears cummerbunds anymore. But I mean, you look really good.
I need it. I need the cummerbund.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think of my treatments and the usually the first opening paragraph, the intros are usually kind of very stream of consciousness. Mm-hmm. The one I pitched yesterday was my last birthday party was really weird. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of talked about how I basically it was technically not my last birthday party. It might've been 4 years ago birthday party, but basically you were there. I think I threw a kid's birthday party for myself so that people with kids would come and their kids would all be distracted and we can drink booze and chat without having to watch our kids.
Yeah.
We had the balloon animal maker. We had the bounce house. We had the trampoline. We had all the stuff for the kids.
My kid was not born yet. It was stressful.
Yeah. No, you enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, it was fun. Yeah.
But because I had this realization that nobody goes, once you have kids, it's like going to a birthday party without kids is a real pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So, but every intro to a treatment, I try to just start with a tonally correct sentence, and I feel like when an offer letter, especially you're doing a dark comedy, is it's a super fine line because you don't want to come off as thirsty or silly or gimmicky.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
if you were less is more.
Writing a Sir Ben Kingsley, and you're the whole time I was creating writing the character of Jake, I was just picturing your beard from Gandhi, or whatever. there's such a story to tell, and it inspired this thing and this thing, and that's why I can't picture anyone other than you doing it. By the way, if you have any friends that might want to do the movie, let me know.
Sure. Yeah. Anyway, I'd love to grab a coffee.
Yeah. Oh man, have you ever? I've been offered jobs like that. Like, Oren, you're so great for this thing, but if you're not available, like, who else do you know that would do it?
You're like, I don't know anyone.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Do you know Matt Enlow?
Yeah. They're like, ugh.
Well, that's cool. I like that. I like that idea. I like kind of leaning into casualness. Not casualness, like letting your guard down, right? It's like loosening that boutonniere on your vest.
So last up, my final talking point.
Oh yeah, good transition.
Thanks. I've been podcasting for a minute. My kid's gonna be home, and I gotta go teach. It's gonna be great. I had a great scout today. It was really fun, and I was wondering if you had any. I have one big tip for scouting. But I wanted to see if you had any. What are the things you like to do to make a successful scout? Is there anything that makes the difference for you?
So, sorry, I guess when I think of scouts, there's kind of like 4 steps, right? There's one where it's just like, there's a file pull. Mm-hmm. You're looking at things. Number 2 is like, you're narrowing it down to here's what we can get. And then number 3 is director scout. You go to a bunch of locations. And number 4 is tech scout. You go to the location you're shooting at.
Sure. With
the crew that you're going to shoot at.
So I'm in between director scout and tech scout.
Okay. So are you trying to maybe bring your key crew, your production designer or something, and your DP to the location before you do the actual tech scout?
That's basically my big takeaway is like, if you can get as many important decision-making department heads in before that tech scout. I mean, sometimes they can come with you on the director scout, and that's really great. But that tends to be
especially if you
so much time, in
the same city. Yeah,
sure. That tends to be hard. But and also you end up going through the paces on 2 or 3 other places. You kind of burn them out a little bit, and sometimes they're paid for that. Oftentimes they are not. So it's time well spent, but also you don't want to take advantage of people. So. But if you're like, hey, this is the spot, we're booked, we're good to go. I've got an hour to swing by set. Do you? And you can pull out an iPhone and figure out what your biggest wide is, for instance. Mm-hmm. Set the parameters for really what specifically you need for the piece. And look, the truth is this budget is healthy, but not robust. And so I'd rather not waste money on gear and therefore team members and therefore or background or whatever on stuff that we can't use or see, basically. So I just want to be as prescriptive and tactical as possible.
Are you building stuff or are you shooting on location?
We're on location, but no, it's on sets, basically. It's on I guess I can say it's like airplane sets. So oh
right. Yes. Air Hollywood Air.
Aero mock-ups. Aero mock-ups.
Aero mock-ups.
Which they've been really great. But also it's not everything is ready to go, obviously. We're going to customize everything. We're going to decide what we want to keep and the layout and all of that stuff. And so my production designer needed to know how many people she needed. What's the labor going to look like in this space? How many hands do I need to literally build the set in the time that I have? How much time do I need? All of that stuff. Same with the DP. These are big spaces. We need to light them. How can we do that as efficiently and as tactically as possible? And then also we're spending a lot of time on an airplane. How are we going to light those windows? There's a couple different ways you can do it. Some are cheap, some are really expensive. How much are we going to see outside? All of that stuff. As soon as we started, again, just with an iPhone and Artemis, we realized, this is much more doable than it could have been if we were just going in blind. You know what I mean? And look, that's what a tech scout is for sure. A tech scout, ideally, you're really walking through all of the team members. But there's a lot of people, inevitably somebody gets bored. Inevitably a producer pulls a key member over to talk to them about their gear order list or whatever. It just gets a little...
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the shoot. But a lot of times these tech scouts are 2 days before the shoot. And so
exactly.
At that point, you can't design a whole stage. You can't build stuff. You can't change things. You can't... oh, we need a translator. We need to paint this wall. Like,
right.
You know,
or you could get the translate, but it's going to cost you extra now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, translates, sorry to make this so geographical, but there are some cities where they have them and there are some cities where you have to ship them in, you know?
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference with how much lead time you have. Yeah, no, that's, I think, I'm trying to think now about my last shoots of how many of them I got to bring the DP and the production designer in before the tech scout. And I'd say probably like 50%.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, we do rely on photos a lot. And it's funny, you know, I just did this shoot that was an all white psych and the producer's like, oh, we don't need a tech scout. I was like, why would we not need a tech scout? And he's like, well, it's a white psych. I'm like, yeah, but like we need to put lights in place and we need to see if there's a grid with the power situation. He's like, it's a stage. They've got a grid and they've got power. Why do we need a tech scout? And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know. He's like, why do I need to pay people to come? Yeah. Why do I need to take a day from people's lives and take it out of the budget to go look at a white wall?
Yeah.
So we didn't do a tech scout. We did have like a pre-light. So that is like the tech scout, you know?
Yeah, that's different. Yeah. Like you have enough time to.
Yeah, but I was like shocked. I'm like, no tech scout on my shoot.
Like, you can either have a tech scout or a pre-light. Take your pick.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, that's smart. I mean, you know, obviously, I think we're both fans of just like kind of shooting as many photos and videos and like pre-vising kind of everything at the location.
Well, in particular, when you've got a plane and your producer's like, hey, you've got X number of extras. You're like, okay, well, is this going to be a problem or not? Is this the right number? Like, if you literally are there and you're framing things up, you can be like, okay, well, I can see 6 seats behind this shot and 12 behind that shot. And here's the wide. Like, okay, we're fine, you know?
Yeah. And are you boarding everything?
Yeah. Yeah.
Based on the actual location and the kind of like frames you've shot or
basically
more just describing it?
Yeah. I think I'll show the board artist the references. It'll be a little bit of both, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Well, awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Scout, the pre-scout scout, the mid-scout scout. Yeah. And again, it's easier to do when you live in the place that you're shooting.
100%. Yeah. In this case, I live 5 minutes from the stages. So that's pretty nice.
You know what's interesting is like before COVID, I feel like I used to do these like scout trips. I would like fly out to Jacksonville or St. Augustine or something, or
drive around for a couple days.
Drive around for a day. Sometimes with the DP, we'd look at like 20 locations, we'd choose a location, we'd fly back to LA. Then a week later, we'd come back, we'd do the tech scout and then the shoot.
Yeah.
And since COVID, I've not done that one time. I have not done that pre-flight.
I did it once, like just after COVID in Texas. And it was very strange because also like I would call a location scout, but like they couldn't be there the day that I was going to be there. I basically like flew into San Antonio, got a rental car.
Oh yeah,
checked into my room.
Salsa there.
They didn't made that joke many times. They didn't get it. Truly, I was like, "You guys are advertisers. You don't get this Pace Picante joke."
Wait, no. People in San Antonio didn't know about Pace Picante.
I didn't say it to San Antonio. I'm saying like when we were shooting in San Antonio, none of the agency people or anything thought that my Pace Picante reference was.
They're 100% wrong on that.
Yeah. Should have gone to New York City. Anyway, I was just like, it felt like I was sleepwalking. Like I didn't talk to another person except for on the phone. I was like in this strange town, like just driving around, scouting for.
San Antonio is so strange. Don't get me started.
Well, I was like in the outskirts. I was just looking for a good place for a car to break down.
Yeah. That's why the Alamo is there. It's because there's just a lot of tension.
I remember.
Now that we're talking about this out loud, I think part of it is the whole Zoom culture. Like now I do, like someone local will take a computer and we'll do a video scout, over Zoom. And Zoom was just not a thing before COVID. It's just so crazy to me that we completely changed all of business because of the pandemic. And now we don't even remember the time before we did business this way with video calls.
Yeah, it is pretty wild. And I do miss the bullpen and being able to just like walk over to someone and say like, hey, I was thinking about this. you know?
Yeah, like in Pamplona. At the end of at the end of the running of the bulls, you get to jump into the bullpen. Are we talking about the same thing? I don't know. Anyhow, got any unpaid endorsements?
I do indeed.
Unpaid endorsements.
Okay, so I got a multi-part one. My unpaid endorsements. First of all, Romulus came out last week.
Yeah.
I liked it very much. Alien, oftentimes I will say, is my favorite movie. It's between that and Fargo. And Romulus is, I heard somebody refer to it as a cover song.
It's the Fargo of aliens.
It's just like, it's very clearly like Fede Alvarez really likes Alien also. And basically did not truly a remake, but pretty close. You know, there's stuff to really like about it. But like, I liked it very much. But also, Ridley Scott and Fede Alvarez were on the Letterboxd red carpet, or on the red carpet. Letterboxd asked them their top 4. I didn't realize that people. I've always loved the Letterboxd social media, but as you've teased me about many times, like of course I did, and so I didn't realize that it's kind of crossed over into more mainstream appeal, like other like non. Nerds like the top 4, like they go a little
like
viral,
spread out to like geeks and dorks.
Yeah, but I'm saying even past geeks and dorks,
like freaks and sheiks.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so they asked Sir Ridley and Fede Alvarez their 2 top 4s, and this is a spoiler, but the third movie on Ridley Scott's list is Blade Runner, a movie he made. And I just think that's so funny and so baller.
Baller, yeah. Or else he's like doesn't watch anyone else's movies. What a jerk.
Yeah, it's really funny to me. Like hey Oren, what's one of your favorite movies? What are your 4 favorite movies of all time?
Hammer.
It's got to be The Hammer. Start with.
Yeah, and Mother's Rage starring Lori Loughlin.
And
then Road Trip. Do you know the movie Road Trip?
Yeah.
That was the original name of A Mother's Rage.
Sure.
But we do have 2 separate posters. And then Hammer also had a different title called Hamill. So I guess those are my 4.
Those are your 4. There you go.
And I do like a lot of commercials. Rebel Wilson. Have you seen that PSA she was in?
Kaplan, what you got?
So there's this podcast, All the Hacks. I've talked about it before. The guy that runs it,
I'm surprised they haven't asked you on yet.
Eludes me. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty big podcast.
I'm making a joke about calling you a hack.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
All the Hacks. Yeah, my wife booked that show because I listened to the podcast so much. Anyway, All the Hacks, it's just kind of like tips on hacks, credit card points and things like that. But he had an episode of like a best of. It's kind of like not unlike that, our favorite unpaid endorsement episodes from like a few years ago. And he's like, here's all the things that I use in my life. He went through all the software, all the desk things, all the scheduling things, the credit card, like everything. And he mentioned this, you know how there's like some companies that you've heard about them for years, but you kind of still have no idea what they do? Kind of like Aflac. It's not insurance. What is it? It's like, who the hell knows what Aflac does? So there's another company like this. It's called Rakuten.
Yeah.
Do you know what Rakuten is all about?
No, but I know how to spell it.
Yeah, because they have a lot of commercials.
Yeah.
So Rakuten, it's just the way he was like, I use it. And so I kind of trust his taste and the things he uses. It's the way I have it, you create an account or whatever, and then you just use it as like a Chrome extension. I use it in Chrome. You can have, a Safari extension too. And there's just some stores, a lot of stores like Best Buy and Target and Walmart, and that if you buy something from that store and you have Rakuten installed, you will get some percent back, like 1%, 2%, 4%. Like right now on Walmart, you get 4% cash back, and they literally just like, you buy something that's $100 worth and they will PayPal you $4. It's that simple. It's just like cash back on online shopping. And it doesn't cost you anything. The way, the reason it's working is like Walmart and Best Buy and Target are paying Rakuten basically that money. And Rakuten is just like, It's like Target's like, hey, we want people to buy that same TV that's on Amazon. It's at Best Buy and it's at Costco and it's at Target. It's the same exact price at all of those places. We want them to choose us to buy it from. And so we'll have Rakuten. We'll pay Rakuten 1% back on any of the people that they bring to us. And so you check out Rakuten if you're buying something like a iPad or something that is sold at like many different places. You're like, oh, they're giving 3% back at, if I buy this at Best Buy. You just buy it at Best Buy and then you just get this money. So it's pretty cool. I've already gotten $12.83 back.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah. And it costs nothing. I mean, it's annoying. They email you. You have to like, after you sign up for those things, you have to like unsubscribe from everything. But otherwise, it's pretty cool. So you can check out, I think it's one of the recent All the Hacks episodes. He goes through his whole thing. I made a whole list of things that I wanted to try from him, and I'll probably steal them as endorsements one by one. I'm not going to burn through all of them right now.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But anyhow, if you find this stuff valuable, you should check out our Patreon, patreon.com/justshootitpod. We're just exchanging some messages with people about Scott Feinstein on our Patreon. If you want to have a direct line to Matt and me, more me than Matt, you can sign up. But you can also, it's mainly just like helping us keep this thing going. On the last episode, I mentioned that my second AD, Dustin, on a shoot, claimed to listen to the podcast. I, of course, did not believe him.
Verified.
And then right after the episode came out, emailed me. He's like, hey, thanks for the shout out.
Hell yeah.
So anyhow, people like Dustin, you should probably, sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/justshootitpod. It's $1 a month. I did hire you for a job.
Wow.
Kind of.
Thanks,
okay,
Dustin.
I did hire you. Someone hired you.
You can hit us up at justshootitpod at gmail.com if you have anything else besides Patreon questions. You can message us at justshootitpod across all social media, and me at Mr. Matt Enlow.
And I'm at O'Kaplan on Instagram. This episode was edited by Noah Bayshore. Thanks, Noah. Also with some producing by him, and as well as some additional producing by Tyler Small. And you're listening to music from the Free Music Archive and the artist Jazar. And we will catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.